So you got a great idea for a comic book, and you have a publisher that might be interested, but you don't know how to write a comic book script. Here's how you do it. So as I had said 100 times, I have this lifelong love for comic books. And in 2003, after I had put out my first feature film, Dirty Laundry, I thought it was time for me to make attempts for me to actually pursue my desire of actually, making comic books for real. So, and the only thing I ever wanted to do in life was but it was to make movies and to make comic books. And I am living that dream now.
This man right here is living his dream.
Coming from a film industry, writing a screenplay or script for a film industry is drastically a different animal. So they have a thing in the industry called the two hymns. The two hymns, the two hymns. So when it comes to a film script, a page is one page to equal 1 minute. So if you have a 90-minute film, minimally, your script should be 90 pages. And secondly, it needs to be properly typed. So properly typed means everything's in the right margin, it's all aligned correctly, and everything. You've been submitted to a producer, and it is not properly typed, and it is not at least 90 pages. They go, and then if it's not correct, they'll throw it right in the trash. So if it's 89 pages and not 90, and it needs to be at least 90 pages, they throw it in the trash. If the margins are off by one little bit, like you two tabs over one thing, or punctuation's not there, or even if the typeface, because script's supposed to be written in American typewriter, is the font, and you got it in New Times Roman, they throw it right in the trash. So me understanding that from the film industry, I was very paranoid about making sure that if I wrote a comic book script and I was going to be able to present it to some people in the industry, I wanted to make sure that it was professional. I got a script and I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm getting an idea about where the margins were and how it's supposed to go. But then I got a second comic book script and it was totally different than the first one. And I said, okay, what's going on? So I got another script and it was closer to the first script that I had, comic book wise, but it was still different. Then I got another one and it was more to like the second one, but also different. So I was like, banging my head against the wall thinking like, okay, well, what's the parameters of a comic book script? And I couldn't find the quote unquote standardized way that a comic book script is supposed to be written. So while I was at a comic book convention, I ran into a writer who writes, professionally in the industry. And that's when he dropped this on me. He said, there's no standardized script for the industry. But what's important is that there are some things that are expected. There are some things that are considered the standard and things that are expected if you're going to present your script to people. And we're going to go over those things that's expected. But if things have changed a little bit here, a little bit there, it is not going to completely disqualify you as if you were writing a movie script. So I'm going to show you 3 different kind of formats for script writing for a comic book. Here's the thing that's most important. You want your script to be very clear and concise and organized and balanced. So it shouldn't be a way to where it's like, you go off and do your own thing to where it's like, okay, what page is this? And is the dialogue here? Wait, whose dialogue is this? Is the names, why is the guy name over here? And then the worst thing is to start typing in one way, in one format, and then just switch to a whole other format in the middle of the same script. Because then it'll throw people off. And if people get confused when they're trying to read it, they won't even bother. It'll be like the two but it'll be like, and then it'll go in the trash. All right, so the first one I'm going to show you guys, this is a script format that Dark Horse uses. So if you're submitting to Dark Horse, they want you to submit your scripts in this format. Dark Horse does not have the exclusive on this format for script writing. I'm using Dark Horse as an example because I was able to pull their information from their website for what they want if you submit to them. And it has specifications that will allow me to explain this format of script. So, I'm going to refer to this as a Dark Horse script, even though it's not really exclusive to Dark Horse. This is just one of what I'm going to say, one of 2 major platforms of how a comic book script is written. You have your cover page, and this is pretty standard no matter what kind of comic book script that you're going to submit or that you're writing. The cover page has your title of your book, the issue number, your name, your address, and then your phone number underneath. And you kind of put that center of page and then, center of the entire page. That's pretty standard when you're submitting it. If it's copywritten, you probably put your copyright down there, which you probably should do anyway. Letting people know that you've copywritten if you're writing it if it's your material and you're writing it for another company. If you're already hired to write for Dark Horse, then you would not put it down because they're going to copyright it under their company. So for the actual script, at the top of every page, you want to put your title name, the issue number, and your name, the writer's name, which would be your name at the top of every page. So here I did this to show it, and then I actually cut and came back, and I actually messed up. But you'll see that I'm going to the actual next page. I missed it, but I will come back and fix it. But on every page, at the top of every page, you want to have this, your title, issue, and your name, and a page number. So we're on our first page. So when you on your first page after the cover, you do Command Enter to jump to the next page. You type in page 1 because you got to say what page it is, and then you put down your panels. So this is only one panel; it's a full page. So I'll put down panel 1 in a full page. If it was like 4 panels or 5 panels, I would say 4 panels, 5 panels. But since there's only one panel, I just say panel 1, one panel full page, and it says, David Munch is in the mall parking lot running toward us. The Vort, who will become to be known as Willie, is standing in the background. The Vort that Willie shot at the end of issue 1 is still lying on the ground. 2 other Vorts are approaching Willie, puzzled and concerned. So when it comes to explaining what you're doing, here's the thing, because even if you're doing this for yourself, if you're working with anybody else besides yourself to create this book, and that's going to happen, if you're the artist, the writer, and you're doing everything is one thing, but if you're working with another artist, when you're creating a script, it's about you saying, I have ideas. I'm going to transfer my ideas to you so you can understand what I'm trying to create so that we can be on the same page, literally, and understand the same concept so that when I say, this is what I'm writing, I want you to do, then you can say, here, this is what I'm thinking. You give it to the artist so they can understand what's on your mind. Type in a very standardized uppercase, lowercase, like you're typing out in paragraph form. Don't use a bunch of all bold caps or a bunch of tabs all over the place or using all kinds of like different fonts for each thing, because this goes back to what I was saying. What's most important is that it's organized, it's neat, and it's easy to follow. If you're reading a script and its font's changing all the time and it's all caps here and there's all lowercase here and it's not typed in any kind of standard way, it takes the person out of the script, which is a bad thing because you want them to be sucked into the script and sucked into the story so that they'll stick with your script. So now that we have our page, our panel, our description, what's going on in the panel, we go to our character. So the character's here, and in this page, the character has a caption. So it's David Munch, and then caption, and it says 1. And 1 is because there's 3 captions on this page, and you want to be able to, you number your captions so that when the artist is laying things out for where the letterer is going to go to put the lettering and things in on the page or on that panel, they want to put it in a way so that when the reader will know which one to read first. So they'll say caption 1 is, okay, let me push this here and put caption 2 here. So there's an actual flow to it so that the reader will follow each caption, logically as it's intended to be. So you have your captions, and you put caption 1, caption 2, and caption 3. And it says, my name is David Munch, and I'm running scared. And caption 2 says, and I'm running scared. And then caption 3, but before you get the wrong idea about me being some kind of punk, let me lay it straight. So that's how this first page goes. So then after I finished doing that, what I'm going back here and I'm doing is I went back and I bolded, put, parts of the page in bold. You put things in bold, sometimes underline things, you put your colons there. All these things are, again, to make it readable to the person reading the script, whoever's you're working with, your artist, otherwise. So it's like it becomes easier. If you know, so by putting things in bold and then spacing things out, it makes it so much easier to read the script and it makes it flow better. I'm doing this for an example, but when I'm writing a script, I don't typically do too much of this kind of editing while I'm actually writing the script. I tend to do this at the end, especially when I'm first actually writing the script the first time. I'm just typing in panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. I don't put down all this extra stuff in my first pass. I'm just writing, getting the ideas out, writing out the panels, figuring out how it's supposed to go so that it makes sense in my own mind. And once I get the ideas to where I think it should be and the story complete, then I'll go back, and then that's when the rewrite starts or the editing starts and the changing starts, and then start bolding things throughout the script. So here's the completed first page in script form and a completed artistic page when it was all completed, and this was actually in the book for issue 2 of Munch. So you can see the format and how it's written, and then you can look at how it's actually completed, and you can maybe screenshot this, and you can sit down and compare what it should look like and compare to what it will come out to be when it's all said and done. So we go down to page 2, and page 2, you hit Command Enter if you're using Microsoft Word, and it'll automatically jump you down to the next page. So for a comic book script, even if you did the first page and you didn't use the full page, you still go to your next page to start. So for every page in a comic book, there's an actual script page for it. So also, if you notice, again, at the top of the page, we have the name of the comic, the issue number, and the writer, and I put page 2 up there as well. But you see in the next line after that, you do page 2, and then you put the panel, says page 2, 4 panels. Panel 1, we see the 2 Vorts talking to Willie. 2 are on one side and Willie on the other. David Munch is in the middle in the distance running toward a pillar outside the mall. Vort 1, Vort 2, and they have the parentheses there. Why did you shock him? Caption, speaking Vort. Panel 2, from overhead we see David Munch isolated running to the pillar. David Munch, caption, before I became your friendly neighborhood medevac pilot, I served 2 tours in Afghanistan. For your captions, you want to keep it to 25 words or less in your caption. That's one thing that Dark Horse uses, and I understand that. If you're using a caption or a thought bubble or even a word bubble, you want to keep it to 25 words or less. And the reason is because, too many words in a caption or thought bubble or otherwise, again, it makes it look very cluttered on the page. So if you have more to say than that, which is fine, you just go to another caption. So you want to keep your captions 25 words or less, and then you change each caption if you're going beyond that. Panel 3. Munch is behind a building pillar outside of the mall. His back is on the pillar. We see his shocked face breathing heavy. Willie is in the distance talking to the other Vorts. David Munch, caption, I flew a bunch of times into heavy fire. Panel 4, close-up of shocked Munch looking out from around the pillar. David Munch, caption, so yeah, I don't scare easily. But there is something about almost being eaten by a space alien that will scare you into a serious case of the bubble guts. The only thing scarier is not knowing. So here's the completed script page, and then here is the completed art page. So you can see, what the script looked like, and it's what the finished page looked like. So one last thing before we move on from this is that, remember at the top of the page, we do our title number, our issue number, and a writer's name. And we do that for every page for this reason. Because just say for the sake of argument that page 2 winds up being 2 full pages. So it's not just 1 page for page 2, but it's 2 pages for page 2. So we're on that second page of page 2, you're actually on page 3. But in the story, it's still the second page of the comic book. So it's important that you put that number at the top of every page, because then when you go down to your next page, which will be, technically, it'll be the 4th page that you're writing on, but that'll be the 3rd page of the script. And that's why it's so important that you put that number of what page you're on artistically at the top of every page. So I wanted to make sure that was understood. So I'm going to show you another script that's opposite of the way Dark Horse proposes how they want scripts submitted to them. So there's no name for this. Let's make up a name right now. Let's call it White Monkey. Yes, I was like, why not? Because we'll do the White Monkey script. I'm going to coin the term White Monkey, the White Monkey script, compared to Dark Horse. All right, but so this script is, the way this is formatted is different than the way the first one I showed you. But again, this is not wrong. It's just different. So look at this as a formatting, and this is it's more simple than the first one. So here's the other format for script. This is the format that I typically use when I'm writing my comic book scripts. This is more closer to a format of what a movie script looks like, so it appeals to me because I was used to writing movie scripts before I started writing comic book scripts. So a lot of stuff is the same, which is the name and number, the name, the author, the issue number at the top, the page number, how many panels it is on a page. All that stuff is the same. But when it comes to like the characters, you center the characters, and then if there's a caption, you can see where it says David Munch caption. You put the caption on the side as opposed to it being going down the side of the page. So for me, this just feels better. It flows better. And again, I've seen scripts written in both forms, And again, not one is right and one is wrong. It's just how it, the one you want to use. So there are a lot of people who are really opposed to the idea of there not being a standardized script in the comic book industry. And two artists, Christina Steen Stewart, she goes by Steens, and Camilla Zhang, they've been pushing to have a standardized script for the industry.
And every week we have like a discussion for the server. And I think one of those weeks was scripts and how you like to tackle them. And from that conversation, we found that, why isn't there a standard one? Because we all seem to be working in different ways, but we all have a very similar base. And from that is where I was like, well, why don't we just make a standard template, something that you can customize as needed with your collaborator, but a starting place, because it's clear that that's something that we all want and what we need.
We kind of cobbled together a unified template based off of other people's templates. You know what I mean? Like, so one of the things that came up in conversation was like, the film industry has the screenplay. They have there's only one way to do a screenplay, and all screenwriters go according to that template. Otherwise, like if you had a different format and, different sort of like font or whatever, whoever the producer or whoever is looking at your screenplay is going to be like, what, like toss, you know what I mean? So like we're not trying to say like, oh, what, like that person's way is the wrong way. It's just that, I think that because the film industry is so big, it has to be, certain things just have to be simple and straightforward.
And it makes sense to have things standardized. The one thing that I don't want to see standardized is that, or say it this way, is that, again, coming from the movie industry, a script, if it's not perfect, if it's not like perfect, again, if you're M. Night Shyamalan and you write a script and, you can write it in a longhand with things typed in and all kinds of notations and things to the side, they're going to read it anyway because you're M. Night Shyamalan. Do you think if Christopher Nolan writes a script and it's not exactly the way it's supposed to be, that they're not going to read the script? Of course they're going to read the script. He's Christopher Nolan. But if you're not in that level, they will throw your script in the trash because, like, well, if you can't even take the time to write it the way we say it's supposed to be done and a standardized way things should be done, then you're not even worth us talking to. So I'd always hated that about things in the industry, because there are people who will, in the film industry, who do take chances and write things the way, in a standard way, but sometimes they'll throw a left curve and do something, and put things in all caps in one place or do something that's different, but it really works. Like, wow, that's cool the way they did that in the script, and it really works. And then because it captures people's imagination and it works, then people accept it. But if it don't work, they'll say this person doesn't know what they're doing, which again, as an artist, that kind of irritates me to some extent. But the idea of the standardized script does have a lot of appeal to it, because it cuts down on the idea of having to explain things to people you haven't necessarily worked with in any kind of extended way. So sometimes you're writing a script and you get a new artist. You sometimes, until you get that shorthand of that artist, you keep working together, you got to kind of explain, well, what does this mean? Well, what does that mean? Even if it's like typed out in a very organized, clear, concise way, there'll be sometimes they won't necessarily get things. And you want to be able to cut that down by having things standardized. Say, okay, this is this, this is that. You can actually download their format of what they wanted for their idea, what they think script writing should be.
We are going to be putting it up on both of our websites, so it's available for anyone to get to. All you have to do is go to our site, click on Standard Comic Script, and there it is, available for download. And again, it's a very good format. Of the standard things are still there. And actually, from what they're doing, I'm actually, because I came across their work, what they're proposing, and I've actually incorporated more of their ideas and the way I'm writing my scripts. Not 100%, but a lot of things that they actually suggested I thought were good ideas, and I've incorporated it into my scripts. So the one thing I have going for me on this side of things is that I'm a publisher. So I write scripts the way I want to see them written, and I don't have to worry about it because I'm, the writer, the editor-in-chief, and I'm footing the bill for the artists and the lettering and the printing and all of the stuff in between. But if you're not that person and you're trying to submit it to a company like Marvel, then you want to make sure that you're doing something that's going to be appealing to them wanting to
publish your work. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked and subscribe, because if you got anything good out of this, if you got any kind of knowledge that you didn't know, please click on the like button, subscribe, help me out. And I got a lot more coming with the indie comic book stuff, but I also got stuff coming about just me being a creator, which is what my channel originally started out being, which it still is. But I have gotten so much positive feedback of people out there trying to start their own indie books, and I have so much knowledge now because I've been, in the trenches trying to figure out the whole indie comic book world, that I got a few things I can share with you guys that that may be helpful. Again, I'm not the greatest expert in the world on this, but I figured a few things out that I'm happy to share with you. So, if you got any more questions or comments, please put them in below. And if you notice, I do get back to the comments and questions. So if you got a question, comment, I will get back to you. I'll get back to you. Peace.